So, continuing with static part of polity. Okay. Last what did we cover was, it was the current affairs part of polity. It was misinformation slash disinformation slash, this is all under the umbrella of fake news. Okay, remember Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita 353, that was related to an article 19 clause 2. Basic, that has already been covered. Today we'll do the static part. It's not just a static part, it's interlinkage of static and current affairs. Okay. Today's topic is crisis in the judiciary. Okay. Why are we studying this? First, it's in the syllabus. That's the best part of studying it, because it's in the syllabus. Second, why are we starting the static part with crisis in the judiciary? Just take 10 seconds to think. What we could have started with preamble. There are n number of things, but why did we start with crisis in judiciary? Because in India, whatever happens, whenever happens, there's an old saying, we'll see you in court, we'll take the help of judiciary. And when you take into sight the larger picture, the whole government framework, judiciary is the most impactful, because without justice, there is no democracy. And if you take into account the size of bureaucracy or the size of political structure, judiciary has a comparatively smaller size. So it can be very easily modified, very easily corrected. That is why we'll start with judiciary. Precisely in judiciary, what we'll do? As I said, delivering justice is important. Being shown as delivering justice is also important. So we'll start with criminal justice system. And to just get an idea how things will proceed, this is the agenda of the week. Today we are doing criminal justice system. Okay. Then, as you know, again, there has been a terror attack in Delhi, our national capital. Again, Indus Water Treaty is in news, so we'll cover that. Plus, another thing which very much is in news is personality rights, the rights of the individual, all the chaos which is being created by AI and its impact on personality rights, plus its impact on society, on the younger future generation, the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs. And connecting to the terror thing, we'll also deeply discuss what is UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and the other is NIA, and all the other organizations and bodies which have power to control and demolish terrorism. That is what is agenda of the week. Now see, before starting anything, today's topic you'll have to make lots of notes. What is criminal justice system? It's very simple. The process in which the criminals are brought to justice. Okay, very lame definition. But what important here is the format in which we'll study. Format. Why doesn't this work? Okay, it is somehow working. What is the format? First, it is not a PhD class. The format is to get a mains ready answer, as simple as that. The format is to have a mains ready answer with all the facts, all the data and all the chronological events, the aim, the challenges, the significance, how to overcome them, international examples. That is the main idea. And before you start making notes, you should understand how the format in which how you have to make notes. See, this will be your roughly A4 sheet or whichever you are trying. Those who have given mains will very much know. It is somewhat like this. So intention is to keep your notes over here in the middle part and always keep 1 inch and 1 inch space, because throughout your preparation there are things which will add and delete. I'm sorry, I don't remember deleting anything, but you will always keep on adding. Data is always changing. You always add up data, more and more data. So get into a habit of it. Be organized since day one. You won't regret it, and it's a very simple step. Okay. Now, this is the format. This is the structure of topics which we will go through. First is C, criminal justice system. then there are 3 P's. Okay, just try and remember. I'll tell you the whole full form. Just hota na, keep an idea of how one topic will lead to the other topic and how everything is interconnected. Okay. See, no need to memorize this. It's just one word for each topic. Okay. If you want to write it down, just write it down. C stands for criminal justice system. Okay. There are 3 P's. Remember, one has to be prisons, one has to be pendency of cases, and one has to be principle of natural justice or principle of justice in simple. Okay. Then we'll move on to labor reforms. Understood? Police reforms, legal framework. L stands for legal framework. The next P stands for police. The role which police has, the whole role of which the administrative machinery of police is having. Then comes, sorry, it's J. This is the core thing, judiciary. Within judiciary, everything is there, but specifically what the judges and the courts, those issues we'll discuss in the judiciary part. Okay. This is step, almost within 10 days, everything will be completed. Just remember, this is how you have to frame your answer also. See how you jump from one topic to another, interlinking them. Okay. Then comes CPT and C. S is separation of powers. This whole part is judiciary and its problems. After judiciary, we'll go to the other 2 pillars. Understood? That is why this is one whole topic. Okay. See, this is P stands for PIL, T stands for tribunals, and C, which you might have heard very much in news, contempt of court. Just understood now. See, there's no need to memorize it. Just sequence of things, what is going. Now, there's nothing much to study over here except just write down a few data points. I'll tell you exactly. Okay. Okay. First, we'll start with what? You started the topic, criminal justice system. CJS. If you want to write fast, just use the shortcut, you'll understand what it is. Okay. Now, whatever is the aim. First, why are we studying? So, what is the aim of this? Okay. And second part is, what are the pillars of criminal justice system? How is the criminal justice system standing? How is it made efficient? How is it made working? So, what is the aim? What is the aim of justice delivery in simple? The aim is 4. Okay. सबसे simple. Prevention of crime. You just write it down. Prevention of crime. Okay. Now, this alone point is more important than prevention of crime. It leads to another thing. Deterrence. When you see people around you getting punished for their acts, it acts to what? As a deterrence. That is the aim of any judicial system in the whole of the world. Okay. Act as deterrence and prevention of crime. Second is quick delivery of justice. As I told you, delivery of justice and quick delivery of justice, very important. Not just delivery of justice, quick delivery of justice should be there. And in today's world, we should be seen as, you should be witness to how justice is being delivered. That is the awareness part of it. Okay. Then, like many other things, protection of vulnerable communities, rehabilitation of victims, and another thing, the aim is free and fair trial. Without this, data has frequently changed, but still 40% to 30% of India's population is below the poverty line or is not in a very well-off state or not in a very marginal state also. So for them, access to delivery should be free and fair. That is how the whole system of judiciary, why is the judiciary system of India appreciated? Because it treats everyone as equal. You have to just go to the judiciary and ask for help, ask for your right, and they will deliver. But the time it takes and the resources, the main point is the resources which it requires are immense. If any of you might have just somehow fumbled into the whole judiciary part, you might have known it is very immense, very resourceful. So that is why we brought the clause of free and fair trial. Those who can't afford it, the vulnerable sections, or just the poor people in general, the marginalized sections, they should have access to free and fair trials. Just, okay, this is related to DPSP. I'll tell you but first tell me which article is it, then I'll tell you in detail. Okay. Now, what are the pillars? Okay. The first part aim we've done. See, the whole legal framework, judiciary framework is based on two pillars. First is what? The government, of course. All the governing institutions. First is the government pillar, and second is the enhancing pillar or the legal framework pillar. What does come in the legal framework? CRPC, IPC, all the laws, and recently Bharatiya Nyaya Sanghita. Okay? That is in the legal framework. Now what comes in the government framework? The whole machinery of government is at play when it comes to justice. For example, the most primary is what? Police. Second, after the police, after your court, where do you go? To the judiciary. Who helps the judiciary? The lawyers. This is how it is going. Okay. Another important part of this government framework is prisons, which we'll study in detail. But prison is also part of the infrastructural part of government. How prisons are treated, how prisons are taken care of, and the very state of prisons in India is just miserable. So we'll see all the data which is related to it. Next onwards I'll just try to rub everything instead of using it. Okay. Now, what has led to the degradation of the criminal justice system? Matlab, it is in a very pathetic, is not a very pleasant word to say, but the state of affairs of criminal justice system is not up to the mark, or is not even close to what our founding fathers or the whole judiciary or the whole population of India has thought or imagined. It's nowhere close to it. So it's a common known fact that the criminal justice system is in a very pathetic state. But how do we justify that? First, we all know that, na? But how do we justify that? Through facts, through data. So we'll use the data of two things: NCRB, National Crimes Records Bureau. If you're preparing for 1 year also, it might be on your fingertips. And the second is National Judiciary. Okay. These two data. Very authentic data, government source data. You can always use in your answers. Now, National Judicial Data Grade, if you want to know the full form. National Judicial Data Grade and National Crimes Bureau, Report Bureau. Sorry. Okay. Now, how, the worst part of this data is, if you want me to write, I'll write it down, but crimes. See, we have to be organized. Crimes, the percentage or the rate of crimes has increased by 28% according to NCRB and National Judicial Grid. Okay? 28%. Imagine a salary increasing by 28%, but the crimes have increased by 28%. This is shown why and how the result of the whole machinery not working. That it was already in a very bad state, but rising more and more leads to what? Colossal damage. That is it. Now, second, 66 lakh criminals registered in a year. Just write it down. It's very simple. First point was this, just to justify your answer. Then second is 66 lakh criminals are registered within a year. Of the youth population or just the population in general, 66 lakh criminals are being registered in a year. Cybercrime has been increasing day by day, hour by hour. Third point is cybercrime. See, it has different data, but from 4 to 6%, cybercrime has been increasing. Irrespective of all the machinery, all the cyber warfare that is going on, still it is being increasing. How? Okay. Fourth is conviction rate. What do you mean by conviction rate? All those people who go to the court for any crime, after the whole trial is over with, either it's a victim or the perpetrator. Conviction rate means how many of them are called the perpetrators. How many of them actually did the crime? That is only 29%. Imagine, of all the 100 people in percentage we are talking about, only 29 are convicted. Such low rate is going on, low conviction rate is going on. And precisely, if you see for rape and murder. For rape it is only 28% and for murder it is roughly 40%. Only this much conviction rate is going on. Matlab, someone has gone to the court, okay? The whole judiciary machinery, the whole police machinery is at play to get someone to justice, and in the end what happens is only this much conviction rate is going on. Either there is a flaw or too much fraud is going on, or else there is a basic flaw, fundamental flaw. Just keep this in the back of your head. All this data shows you what? How does all this relate to the normal people? It relates to acting as deterrence. If you see, everyone is doing some crime and going away with it. How? What does encourage the criminals? These things encourage. There's a saying in India that whatever you do, you can get away with it. Okay? That very idea needs to be changed. But looking at these data, it is being encouraged more and more. That is the point. Okay. Another point is, this is the fourth point, remember, conviction rate. Fifth is, I'll write over here, under trials. Under trials is 67%. This is a very important topic which we'll see in prisons separately, but of all the people who are brought to the whole prison machinery, 67% of them are under trials. They haven't faced trial. That is what it means. They haven't faced the judge, the judiciary as of now, and they are just rotting in prison cells. This is the rate. 67%. Either they don't have the money to get a lawyer or get the process speeded up, but all this leads to what? Overcrowding of prisons also. Another topic for prisons we'll see. Okay. Now, as related to prisons, you can write here also. The prisons, the occupancy rate of prisons is 120%. See, this is a very humble thing, but if you go in depth, if you go specific reports or specific jails, then it rises up to 200%. But the general data is 120%. Okay? What does this mean? If a house, if a jail, if a room, whatever, has the capacity of handling 100 people, 120 are there. And in cases like Bihar, it goes up to 200%. Like only if there's space for 100 people, 200 people are just pushed in it. That is the data. That is the actual reality. And it's much worse. But we'll go with government data. Okay. Now, we are seeing one by one. What is the more? All this is in tandem with the whole judiciary. But how many cases are pending in the judiciary? All this will be speeded up when? When the cases are resolved quickly, either victim or perpetrator. But when the speed up goes, that is when everything will, the bar is over here. Everything is going wrong. But when judiciary acts fastly, when judiciary is disposing of the cases fast, all this data can come down very easily. So, what is the pending of cases? It is 4.4 to present 4.6 crores. It is crores, imagine. Many a times the judiciary itself has commented, just to finish up this pile off, it will need hundreds of years. Many higher judiciary people have commented that just to finish this off, the backlog, not what is coming, this is the backlog. When the backlog gets completed, imagine the present how much they will be. Once your backlog is completed, your syllabus is completed, in the present how much you have left. That is the gravity of this point. Okay. And most often this is 60% is in the lower courts. It is according to 60, because very less comparatively very less cases go to the higher judiciary. Okay. So most of them, 60% of this is related to the lower courts, district court. Understood now? Those are the points. Okay. Now, what is the rate of crimes? It is earlier, in the 20s, it was 2000s, it was 387 per lakh. Now it has reached to 437 in the 2020s. 437 per lakh. Can you see the increase? This is how crime is increasing, not crime is decreasing. After all the mechanism, all the Swachh Bharat and all everything which is going on, the crime rate is increasing. Okay, it is, remember, it is like per lakh, like you remember now, maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate. So this is also in per lakh. Okay, just remember this. This is a page of data of how degradation in the criminal justice system. Now, okay, it happened once, that is good. We'll understand what judiciary is, what justice is, okay? Because without justice, there is no democracy. Without justice, there is no society. That is. Please ले ले यार. Okay, what is justice? Simplest definition is fairness. Okay, fairness in your acts, fairness in your rewards. Whatever you do, you will get an equivalent proportional part of it. That is also known as law of proportionality. Whatever crime you've done or whatever good you've done, both ways. If you've done something good, you should be rewarded proportionally, and whatever crime, whatever negative thoughts or negative acts you've committed, you should be penalized accordingly. That is the law of proportionality also. So, see, law of proportionality. And it is related to justice. Justice is what? In simple, fairness. Just one word is justice, is fairness. Okay. Now, there is an ethical part also, because years and ages back, someone came up with this idea, what is justice? And there was a whole discussion. Okay. That was, you might have heard, Plato. So, justice consists of 4 parts. There are 4 constituent parts of justice, and 4 cardinal points of justice. When all those 4 points come together, we call it justice. That is what the mnemonic, if you remember, see, it's not a bad mnemonic. You can make a better one. However you like to pronounce it, you may. What the dash J. Okay? That is the mnemonic. For W stands what? These are the 4 cardinal principles, 4 cardinal points of when these 4 constitute, justice is done. W stands for wisdom. Okay? First is wisdom. T stands for temperaments. To resist unethical things. That is the temperament. What is, we say now, what is your temperament? So, second is temperaments. Then, justice, J stands for justice, and F stands for fortitude. Fortitude, see, these are words which you will study in ethics part also, you need to memorize them. But what does fortitude mean? It's a very symbolic way of saying courage. Fortitude is what? Fortitude is courage. Courage to resist. Courage to show when there is adversity. So just remember wisdom, temperaments, fortitude or courage, and justice. When all 4 club together, it's known as justice, and given by whom? Plato. See, you can write this in your ethics answer also, and in your GS paper 2 and paper 3. Whenever the whole idea of justice comes, okay? In paper 3 to somewhat justice for the animals. Then also you can, justice is the same for be it animals or human beings. Okay? So you can use this. That is justice. Now, justice is of 3 types. Okay? Write it down, I'll just write it. First is distributive justice. Okay? Our whole constitution is based on distributive justice. Unequal people should be treated unequally. There's a part now in fundamentals, so you should know that. So that is part of distributive justice, that where there is inequality of wealth. Second is reformative justice. Okay? First is distributive justice. Types of justice, just types of justice. First is distributive. Second is reformative justice. As the name suggests, for reforms. And third is retributive justice. Okay? Retributive justice. This stands for what? An eye for an eye. As simple as that. There's no reform. See, reform is for reforming people. Distributive is for when there is inequality, then we do it. And retributive justice for, again I repeat, an eye for an eye. The best way to remember is an eye for an eye. Okay. Now, what is the impact? The first slide, just the first page, all the data, that was part of the impact. But impact on society also we'll see, impact on people in general. Those were the data points substantiating our answer. But in general, what are the impacts of a weak criminal judicial system, or to some extent a failed criminal judicial system? Okay? The very much word that we are proud about, democracy, world's largest democracy we are. Democracy is impacted. The trust that people have on democracy is highly impacted through this. Okay. What this leads to another thing, when the state, understand this, we first go to the state, what do we mean by judiciary. Okay. We go look up to the government, we look up to the judiciary to deliver justice. But when this does not happen, we go to non-state actors. Who are non-state actors? Non-state actors. You might have heard of Kap Panchayats. Those are within their ambit a non-state actor because the government has not authorized them to deliver justice, but they do in their own sphere. They are very important. So if you might have gone to the judiciary and you might have been satisfied with your results, or you might have got a result instead of spending years and years running. If you just got a result, if you just got some form of justice, whether it be in your favor or not in your favor, then the role of state actors might have diminished. But now imagine the 4.4 crores cases pending, and that to 60% in the lower judiciary. Where will they go? They have to go to some other people. So this is the role where non-state actors come into play. Okay. And another thing is, see, I've tried to show them in a good light, but if you see, like, there are cases of mob lynching also. There are cases of, like, when the bride and the groom are killed because caste relationships, all things go on. So if all our judiciary is weak, then all this happen. Why does mob lynching happen? If there is fear of the judiciary, if there is fear of police, if there is fear of justice in simple, then people will be afraid. Where is the deterrence? There is no deterrence. Okay. So that is why these things are increasing. Now again, not very much, this you can write in any answer, ethical angle. Okay. What does the ethical angle mean? Ki moral values and social norms are now disregarded. Whatever you see around you, you learn. When you learn, you adapt. Okay. If you see a criminal in your society is being looked upward, looked forward, he's been given more respect compared to the other knowledgeable intellectual people. So you see, there's a whole debate on social media or in debate in general whether we are now, godification of criminals is happening. The way we are showing our actors in movies, just they are violent and we rejoice it. So what does that mean? We are trying to be the same. Our subconscious mind is trying to relate to it. So this is how social degradedness happens. Okay. Social norms are now flouted around. If your ideals, whoever you think your ideal may be, if they are doing the same on TV, you will say, okay, it's okay. Because the government, the machinery is letting it happen. That is the problem. Another thing is, if you take into example, see, recently there was a very unfortunate incident in Punjab. Very high graded scientist. I'm sorry to say, he died because of a car parking issue. He was earlier, I'm not sure, working with ISRO or Sweden, some high-tech company full, but he came back to India to serve his country and live with his family. Two basic things. But just due to a car parking issue, or if I remember it right, it was a bike parking issue, even worse. There had been a tussle and he had some injury and later he succumbed to his injuries. Just imagine the talent which was wasted. So people who are intellectual, if they see all this is wrong, what will happen? Brain drain will happen. They'll find some better resolution. They'll find some better country in which they are respected also. The knowledge is also respected. That is another example of brain drain. Okay. Again, tourism affected. In many places you have seen. India is not shown in good light. Not safe for women, not safe for girls. So tourism is impacted, right? Numerous, like recently, India-South Africa women's cricket match was happening and some guy molested an South Africa player. So, how demeaning is it for an Indian? How demeaning is it for a whole country? So, what does that show? That it's not safe for authorized cricketers. How can it be safe for travelers? That is the image which is being shown. Again, everything is money. If you support everything, everything is at peace, then money comes in, FDI comes in. If not, people go out. With the brain drain, the money also drains. Remember, the intellectuals earn more. The intellectuals are going, the brain is draining. There's a brain drain phenomena. With that comes the money drain, the financial drain phenomena. Okay. Again, it disturbs the whole social fabric of society. People are scared. Most of them are not arrogant people. Most of them are not criminals. But living in a society where there are criminals and the extent to which they are going, acting such acts, there is so much fear in the society. Okay, that is there. And when you criminalization of politics, that's a essay topic also. Criminalization of politics. When the criminals around you are rewarded by getting seats in your favorite political party or just national political party, and when the data itself shows that 40% of the national political party have grave cases registered against them, and when you see they are being rewarded, first they are an MLA or first they are a local leader, then they become an MLA, then they've given the seat of for fighting MP elections. Then what does this happen? Degradation of society is happening, right? Criminalization of politics is happening. This is a very big topic. Criminalization of politics happens. See, it is happening in your face. So what are you learning? How are you being rewarded is the whole question. Okay. The deterrence part you understood, that if laws don't act as they're meant to act, then there's no case of deterrence. Like hota na, we'll just flout around all the laws. Okay. Again, pendency of cases, 4.4 crore. Just keep on writing and remembering this in your answer. Okay. There is a, if you want to just enhance your answer, there is a broken window syndrome. Okay. Broken window syndrome. What this shows is, if no one is doing it, I will not do it. Okay. If the room is not clean enough, if no one is cleaning the room, even I won't clean it. In this example, this was an international example. If there's a window broken, okay, what people will do is try to break, and it's not repaired for quite some time. Then people will try to break the other windows of the same house. That is the broken window syndrome. So, if someone is committing a crime and he is not being held accountable, then other people get the leverage to do it. That is the broken window syndrome. This is all going on, but it is both a good thing and a bad thing. How can we improve it? That is also a same point, and with that, the present context is how many judges are there in the judiciary? Higher judiciary, lower judiciary. Okay. So what is the vacancy? The authorized is 21 judges per million. Okay. That is what we have. We have 21 judges per million. Okay. Per million. Just write it down. And what is a sanctioned, authorized, or hota na? There's a whole framework behind it that we say na, according to UN, this much doctors should be, according to UN, this much policemen should be. So we have 21 judges and it should be 50 judges per million. So it is roughly more than 100% decrease. 21, 50. Imagine the magnitude it is happening. Okay. Again, in High Court, 40% is vacancy. Okay. Just write it in High Court, 40% of vacancy. And if you want to know the exact data, I'll tell you 465 out of 1098 seats. There are total of 1098 seats in the higher judiciary and only 465 are presently occupied. Okay. Imagine. All this data is National Judicial Data Grid. You can just write it. All this data is just two parts. National Judicial Data Grid and NCRB. Okay. Now, as I said, according to police, according to the UN, police should be 222 per lakh. And how much do we have? We have roughly 100 people per lakh. Imagine, just see the difference. How much should be? 222. And we have roughly around 100 policemen per lakh. It's just not a small difference. This difference has to be compensated in years, in ages, not just today or tomorrow. Okay. Again, what are other simple points if you want to write? Okay. Archaic laws are there, but archaic laws has been to some extent. There's a solution to it. We've done all the restructuring and we brought Bharatiya Nyaya Sanghita of now. But there are still many archaic laws. For example, the sedition law. Then just the name has been changed again and it has been brought up. Okay. Phenomena of adjournment. Date pe date. You heard na? Tarikh pe tarikh. That is the phenomena of adjournment. And best part is poor infrastructure. There is a case in UP in which judge, he was taking his whole setup in a car. And when this was brought to notice by the media, then he got a room of his own. Just imagine the infrastructure that is going on. Okay. Plus, see, there's some role of individuals also because we are Krantikari people, hai na? As Modi ji has said, we are, does anyone remember? Kranti Jivi. The whole purpose of some of the lives of few individual is to just try to find a fight. So, if you want to relate to it, the rising cases of PIL. Okay? In India, for anything, PIL is fine. PIL is also what? It is a part of how criminal judicial system is operating. So, if you just file so much cases for nonsense, then for this, because there's a clause in PIL that you have to get a reply. Just for that reply, all the machinery is halted and put into work. That there is a clause that we have to reply. So this can, to some extent, PIL is very necessary, okay? But to some extent it can be regulated that such PILs, for example, the Supreme Court had itself said that some PILs can be just put it in general, that for some data is asked by everyone, each and everyone. For that, just make a website and put those data in public domain very frequently. So what will happen is, relating to that data, PIL will not be filed. Okay. And another impact of all this is ADR system has been brought into place. Okay. ADR, not Association of Democratic Reforms. Okay. It is, come on, just think what is ADR. Alternative dispute resolution. We've created another wing or another machinery just to solve the problem of judiciary, criminal justice. And again, this same machinery is having the same problems which we had earlier. Okay. So we created another wing, alternative dispute resolution, so that the pendency of cases, so that the cases can be fast tracked, fast speed. But again, this itself is having the same problems. There's lacks of pendency of cases, the same thing. Just to solve one issue, we've created another issue, and both are having the same issue now. Okay, that is the point. Now we'll come to pendency of cases. Okay. Oh boy, कभी तो चल जाओ यार. Okay, just write down. ठीक है. Pendency, मतलब there is an issue of pendency of cases. So it's divided into two parts. First is the pendency which is there in the judiciary, the left part, and the right is the pendency which is there in UN. Okay. If it's working, I'll show you. ठीक है. Give it some time. So there is a pendency in judiciary itself, and the second part is the pendency in police, because both have working in hand. Judiciary just says, judiciary gives the verdict, but behind all the verdict, the work that is gone, it's gone of the police machinery. ठीक है. So pendency of cases. There are two reasons for it. First is judiciary part, and the second is the police part. So just write below it. ठीक है. What is the status of judiciary? ठीक है. As I said, there are 21 judges per million, and what is recommended is 50 judges per million. So just write down 21 and 50 judges per million. ठीक है. Understood? You can show the stark. You can just make a graph also. Okay. Advisable by UN. This is 21, which is a present state, and 50, which is required, and show the difference. Okay, that is another way of showing it. Second is, in High Court there are 40% vacancy. I've told that earlier, and that is 465 out of 1098 are vacant. 465 out of 1098. Roughly, it is 40%. Seats are vacant in the higher judiciary itself. Okay, High Court, not higher judiciary, but it's part of higher judiciary, High Court. And second, police recommended is 2 to 2. Okay, according to UN, what is recommended is 2 to 2, and what is sanctional is 192. In India, this is UN. Sorry, this is UN. 192 is sanctioned in India, and 140 something is actually operational in India. Okay, you can see the difference, right? What is there? Okay, 144. Okay. Second reason of pendency of cases, again, archaic clause. Just write it down. Archaic clause. Phenomenon, adjournment, poor infrastructure. Same topic. See, same themes will go repeated again and again. Phenomenon of adjournment, poor infrastructure and lower courts. Okay. This is what again one important source is Law Commission report on judiciary. Okay. That is also increase in PILs. We had discussed concept of alternate dispute resolution, not in the forefront, and the pendency which it itself is having now. Okay. Another important data is 23% of cases. See, total 4.4 crore cases were already pending. Out of that, 23% of cases have been pending for the last 10 years. Imagine the hustle that people had. I mean, hota hai na? Your whole life is at standstill when you are involved in the judiciary. Okay, now, and there is no, the most important point is, see, it is very difficult to point fingers at the judiciary because it is a very powerful organization. Okay? The MPs cannot do it. Okay? No one, the media cannot do it. And what does that do? There is no accountability of judiciary itself. Just write it in bold. No accountability of judiciary, because no accountability. To some extent, judiciary is outside RTI. Okay? And the other thing is, after so many petitions, after so many cases, after so many hota hai na, begging, finally there is video conference. Matlab, the whole setup of judiciary is, you can see it live. But still, there are some things like what? The judges, whenever they want, they can go on a holiday. They go for long holidays for 2 months, and it cannot be questioned. So all this leads to what? No accountability. Imagine you're in some case, just imagine the gravest case you can imagine, and you're running here and there, and then you know is the judge is gone for a holiday. It's not humane. Okay. That's the part thing. Now, another thing is burden of proof. See, it is very easy to file in PIL, very easy. It is very easy to go in India to just file a court case. But the burden of proof, it lies on who? We just make a claim, and the burden of proof lies on the government now to prove it wrong. We just make a claim. Anyone just makes a claim in PILs. Okay? But what does happen? The burden of proof, who has to now prove it's innocent? It's the government. It has to bring up the data. It has to show that whatever the other person is saying is wrong. So the machinery it required, the whole setup which is required is quite large in that cases. Okay. Another part of this is paperwork. Okay. You know, it's still very cumbersome process. All the paperwork goes on. Now the last part is the impact. Okay. If you just understand, today we'll do till the impact, revise it all over again. Tomorrow what we'll do? 2 things. First, the solutions of this whole, and second, the PYQs related to this theme. The PYQs related to the judiciary and the criminal justice system. So your whole topic will be covered. After reading everything, if you are able to solve the PYQs, that is more than enough. See, why is PYQs important in one line? That is the only medium through which you are connecting to the UPSC, or the UPSC is connecting to you. That is the only source, PYQs, and the second is syllabus. But syllabus is very static, it doesn't change. But PYQs changes every year. So you can see in the dynamism which UPSC itself is changing. That is reflected through the PYQs. So in the second day, that will be the format for the whole polity classes. First we'll cover the static part, and the second day we'll cover the PYQs. So your whole topic is largely covered. Okay. Now what are the impacts? Okay. Again, decrease in trust of judiciary, credibility is affected. These are the points which I'll write in any answer. If any organization like the Finance Commission, it has a problem, so what's its impact? Impact is what? Trust is decreased. Credibility of that, and the credibility of Election Commission itself is now into question. We are studying the judiciary, the criminal justice system. Just for example, I am telling you, if any organization, any institution is weak, or is shown as weak, or is not able to perform, what happens? Its credibility is decreased. Its market space is decreased. Okay, that is the problem. And if such organizations fail, the purpose for which it was built also fails. What happens? What it means is, its purpose is to put the criminals behind bars. But if it is unable to do so, what happens? Increase in criminalization will happen. Another part was increase in criminalization of politics will happen. But criminals in general will increase. Okay. Same leads to deterrence also. And number of under trials also increase. Because what we do is, we just catch someone, the police catches someone and puts them behind bars, and now that person is waiting for, some cases are there, they have been waiting for years just to get a free and fair trial. Just to be, see the face of trial, see the face of day of light, and it just goes on for ages. And economic impact is there, we've discussed, brain drain is there, financial drain is there, credibility of judiciary. If this whole justice is impacted, credibility of judiciary itself, the very thought with which we fight each other, that we'll see in the court, we'll see in judiciary, the judiciary is there for us, that gets tainted a lot. Now if you want, you can remember a few quotes. William Gladstone, William Gladstone said, justice delayed is justice denied. I'm repeating it slowly. William Gladstone said, justice delayed is justice denied. See, you can start an essay also with such a quote. There's a trend that quotes have to be used. Second is, in state of UP, Vapas Bapu Singh, right of speedy trial was added in the fundamental rights. Again, I repeat, in state of UP versus Bapu Singh, right of speedy trial in FR. Okay. Last is judiciary is facing what? Slow motion syndrome. We've discussed one more syndrome, broken window. Second is judiciary is facing what? Slow motion syndrome. Now everyone just hota hai na, before filing a case or after filing a case, or just sitting in your drawing rooms, and when we discuss, everyone says this, that judiciary has to some extent failed. If you just fall in such a trap, it will go on for ages. It is tainting the image of judiciary itself. Okay, again, William Gladstone, just start with this answer or just use it anyway. Justice delayed is justice denied. If someone has to wait for years, how does it matter? Matlab hota hai na, this is the worst impact on deterrence. If to get justice you're waiting years and years and you're wasting those credible important years of your life, how is this justice? Second is state of UP versus Bapu Singh, right of speedy trial in fundamental rights. And third is judiciary facing what? A slow motion syndrome. Okay, that was it for today. Tomorrow, see, solutions are very easy, okay? But I'm just giving you time to think. Whatever is the problem, the opposite part is the solution. Just think over it. And the PYQs are also important. Okay? That is it for today. Thank you.